So my name's Alvin. I've been working with the ITC actually very closely with our next speaker, Dr. Chimoli, together to improve the research and development environment at the ITC. The project is funded by HEIS, so it's Cambodia Higher Education Project, which is funded by World Bank, and I am the International Technical Advisor. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to write down your questions, or as Salt mentioned, ask the question right away. You can also email me afterwards, and then there's also my professional profile online that you can have a look later. So for the project, basically we talked to about 80 people in Cambodia, including researchers, different private sector, different NGO, embassies, and different organizations, including USAID, JICA, so they've been working with ITC. So I also did some secondary data collection for this project to understand the research environment more. So I am not a scientist myself, so if you have any STEM question, agriculture about topic, the topic on the scientific research, I think Dr. Chimoli, our next speaker, will better answer your questions. But I'm more on the management of education. My background, my PhD is in education. So the use of the study is basically to improve the research. So I was thinking today, when we talk about knowledge transfer, I was thinking, we can talk about very big things like setting up incubation centers or starting different collaborative research with different sectors. But I think, since Cambodia is at a very early stage of improving the research environment, we may want to talk about something that we can do right now, this month, next month, this year, as we are the new year now. So I'm thinking about what existing connection we have here and how we can do better. So I am using the information that I have, but remember, I am from Hong Kong, I'm from Britain, I'm not from Cambodia. I try my very best to understand Cambodia, but what's going to be very helpful for me is that in this session, you share with us your experience after the presentation as well. And of course, Dr. Chimoli will share his experience of working in the ITC to promote research. So the report is available on the link in the PowerPoint here, and I will share with you later. And please feel free to have a look at the report if you have any questions of what I say today. So let's start with the current situation here. So we understand that in Cambodia, the government's investment in research and development is very limited. We can have a look at next slide here. That if we compare Cambodia with other Asian countries, and of course in ASEAN we have more richer countries like Singapore, who's been very, very ambitious in research and development. But let's just compare the average to Cambodia. We realize that the research and development expenditure is quite low in Cambodia. And then also the private sector, they're not really investing much in there. And then we are not having a lot of research and development personnel. And also patent is an issue. And then also we're not having a lot of journal articles. So it's quite not very encouraging, but what I'm gonna say here is that a lot of these things, they are changing, especially with the government. I think the government is working really, really hard to give a lot of investment to us, to universities, to different sectors, to really promote research and development. So I think one of the major challenge that you have in universities and research is that you find out that the ecosystem is not there yet. That means that there are not enough players outside to kind of be in the system to join research. And let's take a look at some kind of simple data here. So actually World Bank went around Cambodia and asked companies whether they've invested in R&D in a 3-year period. So between 2014 and 2016, they asked about 370 companies in Cambodia. And more than 80% of them said they not invested a single dollar in R&D. So now, back to the current situation, we know that there's not ecosystem out there. However, I think that's exactly where the opportunities are. So universities are in a very good position to promote research and innovation. So what is lucky is that we have a lot of government support, financially and also technically. And also we have international organizations, for example, different UN agencies. I know Swedish embassies been working with RUPP. ITC has quite a lot of collaborators. That's very good. However, we also need to understand there are downside to the picture is that companies they're not very much willing to invest. I think this is like the major issue, especially with the government promoting the industrial development plan, the IDP. We know that this is like the missing piece there. So the companies are not willing to engage. So let's take a look at why companies do not want to be part of this game, or they don't want to, work with universities. I think it is very easy for us to say, or sometimes even for the government to say, well, university, you go out working with other companies, other organizations. But it is hard to uh, do so if we don't understand why the other side they are hesitating. So I've been talking to different companies from the private sector and also NGOs and try to understand why it's been so difficult to work together. So I think there are something very fundamental that we need to think about. Of course, for universities, there are lots of requirements on producing articles and kind of got different outputs, but we have to look at things more fundamentally. So the first concern that these companies have is that actually they don't know at all. They don't have a sense of awareness. They don't know what universities are doing. I'm not sure if you had the experience of going to a family dinner or with your friends or a barbecue, and then you tell people you work in universities. I think the very first thing that they think is that you teach in there, you are doing teaching. They don't know actually universities, they have other functions. So they don't actually know what you are working on. So number one here is a lack of awareness of universities' abilities. So what can a university do? I think in Cambodia, there's a very strong sense that the universities only teach. And we know that this is the traditional way of higher education, but innovation and research, they're simply not in the minds of people yet. So there's a lack of awareness of what you, the researchers, university people can do. So we have a job to really explain to them what we can do. And this will take a long, long time. The second thing is that they might not know, these companies or like even your friends and family, is what are the available technologies. Now, I know today we cover a lot of different topics, and I think, you know, as a general way is that companies, they don't know what is actually out there and why it is for them. So also here at universities will need to really explain to people what they can do, and we can talk about that later. And then number three is the awareness of the potential value by technologies. That means that even if they know what technologies are out there, they don't know what value that these technologies can add to their business. So they don't know how to use it to improve their business. So that's why university find it very difficult to work with companies, because companies felt like, well, I don't know why I should work with you because I don't see what I can gain from here. So this is the awareness issue. So the second common concern that they have is the high cost to their business. So like business usually think, oh, it is going to be a lot of money to insert in research and development, because that sounds big, that sounds like massive. And the perceived high cost, that means they think that it is a very high cost, actually stop them from being your partner. And cost here also means time cost. So usually with universities, especially with public universities, the negotiation process, the time to manage a deal is very long. So usually they find it very challenging to spend that much of time to work with universities and people to work on research and innovation. And of course, finally, there are differences in expectation. Usually businesses expect something quick and easy. The solution is ready to be used and quick, very short time frame. However, research in Cambodia, even in like one of the best universities, ITC, research usually take a lot of time, and that is actually what's been pulling back the collaboration. Okay, so now we know that this is the common concerns. So let's think about how we can improve the existing connection to make innovation happen. So innovation, we always talk about knowledge transfer, but knowledge transfer is just the very final step. So we have to think about knowledge generation, which meaning we generate the knowledge and not only uh, in universities, but generating knowledge with people, with different stakeholders, involve them at the very beginning of your research and development and innovation processes. The second one is about knowledge diffusion. So how you actually let people know about the existence of knowledge and the use of knowledge and the potential value of knowledge. And the final step is to deploy the knowledge. So there are three steps. So let's, with these three steps in our mind, and have a look at the existing connections that we have here. So we talk about people, events, and consultancy. So these are existing connection, at least for ITC. Of course, you can share with me your experiences in other universities and see whether this is happening in your university. And the fourth one being collaborative research. This is very limited. So today we're not going to talk about it because it's not existing, it's developing. So with people, ITC has been working very hard, and I know in other universities as well, to have students and recent alumni working in other companies and in different sectors. And internship is a very good start of the program because that means that students, they are very ready to use the knowledge and then they got hands-on experience in companies. And here I want to highlight one thing that a lot of universities, they may not realize actually. um, Innovation and entrepreneurship training in Cambodia, we have them and they are very helpful to our research and development and innovation. Let me name a few, say for example, Impact Hub, Energy Lab, and Small World. So these innovation platforms basically help students to gain the soft skills and the communication skills and connect with existing investors and other companies to have experience. So for here, the people connection, yes, we have, especially with internships and different programs, it is there. But I encourage you to improve the system of sending students out to different platforms. So these are just a few, and in your field, you may be able to find even more. And there are some international ones as well that you can find online. So we know that these linkages, they exist, but even for larger university like ITC, these linkages, they are quite informal. That means if a lecturer or a researcher in a university, they're teaching a course and they happen to know about the program, then they tell students to go. And there's no way to formalize it. There's no way to make this happen every single year. So if that lecturer chose to leave the job, then these opportunities are gone. So I encourage universities to formalize all internship links and also to encourage students to participate in these programs and be a provider if you can. So not only to provide your students, but also provide your venue if they're needed and provide small funding if you can to send students out to kind of let other organizations to educate them as well. So to prepare them for being innovators and also encourage students to share what they learned, from there. So the second one is people and event. So here we talk about researchers. ITC and other universities, they have a lot of amazing research projects, but there are something that we can improve this kind of linkage that is already happening. So here I'm trying not to talk about big things to kind of start something new projects. Here I'm limiting to what is been happening now. So with the research projects that we have now, we can improve visibility and presence. That means we need to explain to people, the wider public, not only just within university, what people do. So I struggle in Cambodia to find more about researchers. So think about when you want to go to a restaurant or a very nice coffee shop that you haven't been, and then you are trying to see which one to go. You would probably go online or ask around friends. However, if you want to do the same for researchers in Cambodia, it is very difficult because their information are not online and you don't know what they are doing and you don't understand the research project. So here I encourage universities, if you have different projects, try to use simple language online, offline, to explain to people what they are actually doing, what researchers are doing, and how that knowledge and that innovation can be used. And here, when we talk about the visibility and presence, we need to think about different ways of talking to different stakeholders. Of course, being online is one thing, encouraging your researchers to go to academic and non-academic conferences is one thing, and use the innovation and entrepreneurship, training platforms that I mentioned earlier, as a sharing platform. For example, I mentioned Energy Lab earlier. So for people working in clean energy, that's a very good platform because they connect investors and different partners. It is very difficult for universities to start something new. So I think it is much easier for them to work with existing platforms to start with, and then to build connection with others. Then finally is consultancy. In a lot of academics, especially researchers and innovation people with more than 3 years of experience in Cambodia, especially if you have a PhD, I understand there are consultancies going on. But from research and also from real-time talking to people, we understand that consultancies in Cambodia, in universities, they are pretty, again, informal. So they are individual. So basically, these consultancies, it is happening, technology knowledge is being transferred, but they are limited to individual, informal linkages. Now, universities will have a chance to formalize them. So that means that they can connect the consultants with the universities. But here is a deeper system that we need to take time to develop. So we need to offer coordinated support on team formation and management and operation, so that the researchers, they are willing to be part of the university to become a consultant. But this is a much longer project that we have. I understand we are kind of having my time is nearly up. So here I just want to give you some very quick improvement summaries. It is never easy to develop a whole new ecosystem because it is not yet there in Cambodia. We are still at the very beginning of it. And that's why universities, we are given a very important task to kickstart this process. So how we can do better in terms of promoting research and innovation and development. So number one, I think, is to be a provider to organization in the ecosystem. There are a lot of amazing organizations working in innovation platforms. For example, I mentioned Impact Hub, Energy Lab, and many, many more. I think universities need to change the mindset, thinking that what they can get rather than what they can give to these organizations, how they can help them work better. Have people really regularly working with them, not just informally having lecturers on and off working with these platforms. Formalize these links, make sure that the organizations work with you, constantly, sign certain agreement, and then follow up. So I mentioned part of it is formalizing the existing linkages. So make sure that all linkages, they are already in the system. Someone will follow up and be open to opportunities. Many amazing NGOs and also different companies, they have these programs for universities. They find it very difficult to reach universities. Think how you can be more welcoming, have someone dedicated to, being welcome to them. And then the last 2 points I mentioned is why the knowledge generation. So here, remember, technology and knowledge transfer, they don't happen in 2 years, 5 years. We talk about 10, 20 years. So here, when you generate knowledge, try to include different stakeholders, invite other people in your research. For example, some ITC researchers working on clean energy. So they actually went to rural communities, involve more people, works will get spread out. It's not going to come back in 5 years' time, but in the long term, when people know that what you're doing, you involve them, that will happen slowly. And finally, encourage knowledge diffusion. Think about how you will talk to people about your research in a simple, easy way. So try to think about who your audience is and then try to connect with them. So this is my sharing today. That's a lot of things in 20 minutes, but I'm sure we can, have some questions answered in the discussion, and I'm sure Dr. Chemoli will tell you more. I hope it's not too much ITC for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen, for your presentation. It is very interesting and informative. In fact, it is the highlight of what we, both public and private higher education institutions, together with other third sectors, should come to work together hand in hand in promoting knowledge transfer. And one among many other ways to make this happen is through using our existing connections, such as people, events, consultation, and collaborative research. I'm grateful for the time you spent in careful preparation of your meaningful presentation. Once again, thank you so much.